Oh, that's missing.
That happened to me last week. I had a mask on. I was playing and I didn't realize I had my mask on. I'm like, oh, I gotta take this mask off.
That's become so normalized.
Well, so for some, not for everybody. sheet this way.
Uh-oh.
Just elbow them really hard. In a loving way.
In a loving way.
But you want me to cheat a little this way? Okay. Okay. Okay.
I don't know. I was trying to figure out where the
What if I blink my eyes a lot?
yeah. Can you be right next over here? I need this for later. I can leave it. It's fine. Shabbat Shalom, welcome. We'll turn as we do each service to page 141. Can you hear us okay? Yes? Okay, and welcome to those who are joining remotely this morning. We'll begin this morning with the last line on page 141. Let's turn ahead now in our Siddur, page 151, the morning blessings to greet this day. It's the custom to stand here as we're able. And with these marvelous prayer leaders here, I'll begin and pass it to you, Cheryl, and then Jeff, and then Beth. לשם ייחוד קודשא בריחו שכינתי, הנני מוכן ומזומן לקבל עליי מצוות עשה של ואהבת לרעך כמוך ובזכות זה הבטחתי.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלכי עולמים, המעביר שינה מעיני ותנומה מעפעפי.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלכי עולמים, הנותן לשכל בינה להבחין בין יום ובין לילה.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלכי עולמים, רוקה הארץ על המים.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי העולמים פוקח עברים.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי העולמים מלביש ערומים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי העולמים מתיר אסורים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי העולמים זוקף כפופים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים המכין מצעדי גבר. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים שעשה לי כל צורכי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים עוזר ישראל בגבורה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים עוטר ישראל בתפארה.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים שעשני בצלמו.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים שעשני בת חורי.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים שעשני ישראל.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים הנותן ליעף כוח.
Amen. Take our seats.
אשר יצר את ידם בחוכמה, וברבו נקבים נקבים חלולים חלולים.
ברוך אתה אדוני, הופך כל בשר ומפליא לעשות. אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה היא. 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 אתה בראת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי, ואתה משמרה בקרבי, ואתה דלילה ממני לחיי עולם. כל זמן שהנשמה בקרבי, מודה אני לפניך, אדוני אלוהי. ברוך אתה אדוני, אשר בידו נפש כל חי, ורוח כל בשר. 177. ברוך הוא, ברוך שמו. ברוך הוא, ברוך שמו. ברוך הוא, ברוך שמו. ברוך הוא. Blessed is the one whose speech is the world. Baruch hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one forever creating. Baruch hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one speaking and acting. Baruch hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one separating and sustaining. Baruch hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one whose
We turn to page 185. And this psalm setting is both in the Hebrew and in the English that Rami Shapiro shared with us below the line, and starts on the third line in the Hebrew. Ein omer ve'ein devarim bli nishma kolam. Ein omer ve'ein devarim bli nishma kolam. Hashamayim misaprim kevoreh u'maaseh yadav magid harakia. Yom leyom yabia omer v'layla l'layla yechaveh da'at. Ein omer ve'ein devarim li nishma kolam. Ein omer ve'ein devarim li nishma kolam. Nature is God's nigun, a wordless melody of unfolding life. To awaken to God, we must hear the nigun. To awaken to God, we must listen. Ein omer ve'ein devarim bli nishma kolam. Ein omer ve'ein devarim bli nishma kolam.
Continue now, page 227.
Hallelujah.
Let's turn now to 31, that last verse.
Page
Kol
231.
haneshama tehalel ya. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Let's allow ourselves a moment to breathe, as the psalmist seems to suggest we do. And before we push ahead in our prayers, to come back to where we began this morning, the words back at the beginning of Shachrit on page 141. As we reach the completion of our warm-up, page 141, to find our way to that verse, that last line on 141 that says, Va'ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon. Don't hit your partner with your guitar. Let this prayer that comes forth from me now be one that meets the world, meets the source of all life, and find that link that we call an et ratzon, which is a time of desire, a place where what we have to offer and what the world needs need each other. Va'ani 141. With that extra welcome to ourselves, to this beautiful tent space of ours, let's stand together and now call ourselves formally into prayer as our community this morning in our Siddur, page 247. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. We're seated now. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yotzer or uvorech choshech, oseh shalom, uvorech et hakol. 249, Hakol yuducha, v'akol yishabachucha, v'akol yomoin kadosh k'Adonai. 249, last lines. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha berachamim. ובטובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד, מעשה וראשית. 251 now, המלך המרום לבדו מאז, המשובח ומפואר מתנשא מימות עולם. אין קרקך ואין זולתך, אפס פרטך ומדומה לך. אין קרקך אדוני אלוהינו בעולם הזה, ואין זולתך מלכנו לחיי העולם הבא. אפס פרצך גואלנו לימות המשיח, ואין דומה לך, מושיענו לחיי עולמים.
Page 253 and 255 in transliteration. Yai dai 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 dai. El Adon al kol hama'asim baruch u'mvorach befi kol neshama godlo v'tuvo male olam da'at u'tvuna so v'bimoto hamitgael chayot hakodesh v'nedar bechavod al hamerkaba zechut u'mishor lifnei chiso Chesed berachamim lifnei chekodo, tovim meorot shebara Eloheinu yitzaram bedad, v'bina uvchaskel, koach ugvura natan bahem, liot moshlim bekereb tevel, melei הלבנה, שבח נותנים לו, כל צבע מרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש, אלי, 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 המחדש בטובו בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית כאמור, לא שעורים גדולים כי לעולם חסדו, אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו במהרה לאורו, ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
Turn ahead, let's go together now to page 273. Summoning that sense of love that we want to have at the front of our consciousness as we prepare ourselves for the morning Shema. This morning, I'd like to chant together with you the English version of the Ve'ahavta, and of course, Debbie Friedman left it for us as a gift for all time. We'll follow the English that's in our Siddur, which is just a hair different from the version that she wrote. It's based on the same Hebrew, so it's okay, but it'll give us a text to join in together. But first, page 273. Ahavah Rabbah, Ahavtanu, Adonai, Eloheinu, Ahavah Rabbah, Ahavtanu, Adonai, Eloheinu, Ahavah Rabbah, Ahavtanu, Adonai, Eloheinu, Ahavtanu, Adonai, Eloheinu. Last time, Ahavah Rabbah, Ahavtanu, Adonai, Eloheinu. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. These words aren't printed, so just joining in together, you can follow after me. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you we will know that you are one. And we will know that you are one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. And you must love the one, your God, with your whole heart, with every breath, with all you have. Take these words that I command you now to heart. Take them to your heart. Take them to your heart. Teach them intently to your children. Speak them when you sit in your house or walk upon the road, when you lie down and when you rise, and when you rise, and bind them as a sign upon your hand, and keep them visible before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, that you may remember and do all of my commandments and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God. Time now for our own quiet, prayerful reflections of these middle paragraphs before we bring ourselves forward to that theme of freedom. למען יבוא ימיכם, ימי בניכם, האדון אשר נשבע אדוני, כימי השמיים על הארץ. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל, ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית, על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף בציר תכלת, והיה לכם בציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם. ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. 291.
291 Zilot Lel Elyon Baruch Hu Borach Moshe uMiriam uVnei Yisrael Nechanu Shira v'Simcha Rabba Yamru Chulam Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot osef ele Shira chadasha shibichu geulim l'shimcha asafat hayam Yachad kulam hodu v'himnichu ve'amru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Tzur Yisrael kuma be'ezrat Yisrael Uvdechinu mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael Go'aleinu Adonai tzivahot shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch ata Adonai Gal Yisrael. Page 295. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufitik yagita hilatecha. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Sarah Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Rivka Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomer chasadim tovim v'koneh hakol v'zocher chasdei avot v'imot u'mevi gula livnei v'neihem leman shemo v'ahava melech ozer u'moshia u'magen Baruch ata Adonai magen Abraham v'ezrat Sarah ata gibor le'olam Adonai Rab lehoshia morid hatal michalkel chayim bechesed michaye kol chay berachamim rabim somech noflim v'rofech cholim umatir asurim umekayem emunato Dishenei afar michamocha b'gevurot u'midom elach melech memit u'mechayeh u'matzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata lacha yod kol chai Baruch ata Adonai Michaye Kochai. Page 303. Likadesh et shimcha ba'olam Kishem shemati shimoto bishme marom Kakatuv al yad neviecha V'kara ze el ze v'amar Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivahot, Melech haaretz kivodo. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivahot, Melech haaretz kivodo. Az b'kol rash gadol, Adir v'chazak mashmihim kol mitnatzim leumat serafim leumatam baruch yomeru baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo. Mimkomo. במקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרוב ימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים. ועינינו תראנה מלכותך, כהדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Silently. מודים אנחנו לשטן, סור חיים מגן שנתן.
יהיו לרצון אמרי יהיו לרצון אמרי בהגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי יהיו לרצון אמרי יהיו לרצון אמרי בהגיון ליבי
What a gift we have in the presence of these. Yay. So much to celebrate as we come back together as a whole and intergenerational community. First day of Limud, and a special welcome to the parents who are floating back and forth, as I am today, with the youth minyan coming up at 11, and all are welcome to be in either space at that time. But so beautiful to be together with this wide range of folk in the room, a wider range still in the building, and a wider range still on Zoom, and blessings to all. We are moving to our Torah service this morning and inviting Marshall Mazer and Shelley Sadowski to join us as we take the Torah through the room. Do we have Cheryl? Are you leading this? Page 383.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. Al harachamim hitiva v'tzoncha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Ki b'cha levad batachnu, melech elam v'nisa Adon olamim. ויהי בנשוא אהרון ויאמר משה קומה אדוני ויפוצו אויביך וינוסו משנאיך מפניך כי מציון תצא תורה כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני מירושלים ברוך שנתן תורה תורה ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל Page 387, last three lines. Ve'anarachetz ve'lishme kadisha kadisha yakira ana amatush bechan ve'anarachetz ve'anarachetz ve'lishme kadisha kadisha yakira ana amatush bechan yeherava kodamach v'tiftach libi be'oraita v'tashlim nishalim delivi וליבא דכל עמך ישראל לטבול חי ולשלם amen. Page 393. Shema, call and response. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Galul Adonai iti, uneromem Shemo Yachdav. Ve'ishtachavu b'hadom raglav kadoshu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu behar kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Yisrael ve'oraita kodsha
Hallelujah. Ya na na na, ya na 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 na, na na, ya na 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 na, na na na, ya na na na. Big harmony. Na. Good Shabbos. Parshat Ki Tetzeh, 74 mitzvot. There are 54 parshiot, but this one hogs 1/8 of all the mitzvot, totally unfair to the others. So the bully of parshiot in halachic framework. In a sense, this Torah portion is at the heart of the whole Jewish legal enterprise, the halachic approach, which tends to be very binary. It's not should or shouldn't, it's not might or oughtn't, it's do or don't, must or can't, with ever greater levels of stringency. That's in Hebrew, it's machmir, in Yiddish, it's frumkeit, It's almost in the yeshiva world an arms race of who can outscrupulous whom. Yet consider, in mid-19th century, out of those yeshivot, Lithuanian Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was asked one of those good narrow halachic questions. When you're baking matzah, what do you need to pay particular attention to? His answer, socially situated in the reality of that time, one must be scrupulous not to yell at the woman kneading the dough. So we can laugh in a third wave feminist era at the gender implications. We can also think, wow, strike one for worker justice, long before OSHA was organized. And there is an incredible theme in our tradition that runs against what we might think of as the dominant, until the 19th century or so, of this halachic binary, and into this world of what matters. In Ki Tetzei, many of those 74 mitzvot are civil society. They are ethical laws. As we will see in the short excerpts we're reading today, if you open your Chumashim, Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 14, this is on 1499 in the old Plaut Chumash that just says the Torah on the front. If you have a graphic on the front, 1332. Again, 1499, 1332, Deuteronomy chapter 24. And we're just reading verses 14 through 19. And in 6 verses before the equally famous and important maftir about Amalek, which brings us back to the Purim season, in just 6 verses, we get 2 different perspectives on workers' rights. A disagreement with earlier biblical texts about intergenerational sin and punishment. Here, correcting the record, we suffer only from our own errors. 2 separate protections for the structurally disadvantaged in our society, going out of the way to center and privilege the experience of the stranger or immigrant, the orphan, the widow. And a reminder to be generous because of our own history, having been slaves and strangers in Egypt. Words to live by, 6 sentences, all that. Look with me at the first verb in our reading, verse 14. This is on the very bottom of 1499 or the middle of 1332. Lo ta'ashok, sechir oni ve'evyon. Thou shalt not oppress. Ta'ashok, defraud, take advantage, cheat, minimize, most commonly translated, oppress. Don't do it, particularly for the 2 gradations of those impoverished. Again, centering the experience of those on the margins. There's a whole category of law that comes out of this very verb, oshek. It's in the gray area halachically. It's too hard to measure to be of serious concern to the stringency wing of our tradition. But it's been critical among more liberal thinkers, including those pushing the boundaries at the left or modern edge of orthodoxy, as with the 19th century Reb Salanter, or 50 years ago when a young Rabbi Yitz Greenberg and others who had studied under the great Rav Soloveitchik joined the United Farm Workers in declaring non-union table grapes and lettuce treif. Or today, with Orthodox social justice group Uri L'Tzedek and their amazing Tav HaYosher certification program, not enough to know if the place is really strict about their dishes and their ingredients. What about yelling at the woman who kneads the dough? Kosher means acceptable, and that's always been part of our tradition. So for us, not bound by halacha exactly, but bound to it somehow, hoping to find inspiration and meaning, and yes, even challenge to our assumptions and givens from it, the more we delve. Where are we on Oshek, thou shalt not oppress, in our shopping habits, in our investment portfolios, in the grapes and the lettuce that we buy? One last one about matzah, again from Reb Yisrael Salanter, who many of us know was the founder of the modern Musar movement. Once he was visiting a new matzah bakery in order to check for kashrut. He reviewed all the manufacturing procedures extensively. He observed the intense labor and toil of the employees. He looked at the ingredients. He looked at everything. At the end of Rab Salanter's visit, the bakery owner proudly asked him, "What does the rabbi say?" He answered, "The Gentiles accuse us, chas v'shalom, God forbid, of using the blood of other children in our matzah," the famous old blood libel. While this is not the case here, from what I have seen, there is indeed a violation of the prohibition on blood in food. The blood of the workers is mixed with the matzah. I will not certify this bakery as kosher because of how you treat the employees. Lo ta'ashok sachir oni ve'evyon, you shall not abuse a needy and destitute laborer. Me'achicha o migercha asher ba'artzecha bisharecha, one of your brethren, one of your immediate kin, or the immigrant with different experience, English as a second language, without the support structure. Whoever it is who is poor and near you, you must go out of your way to center their experience. That's so apt for our first Aliyah, because we are remembering today our beloved and your beloved Hannah Lipman, who always loved this line of Jewish thinking, which only deepened for her as her and Tim's son Ari entered community organizing and made fighting Oshek in the secular arena central in his life. And as their son Scott became super active in our super sister shul in Boston, whose rabbi is one of the national leaders in worker justice within a Jewish framework. And they are all with us, and we will be inviting them up for the first Aliyah. So books still open to $14.99 at the bottom or $13.32 in the middle, Deuteronomy 24, verse 14.
Ya'amdu Tim, Scott, and Ari Lippman, Oren Noah Ben Zvi, Avi Ben Sadiq, V'Yishai Ben Sadiq L'Aliyah HaRishona, Baruch Natan Torah LeMoshe B'Kedushato,
V'atem hadbekim l'Adonai Elohechem, Chaim kulchem hayom. Awesome timing. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sure. Hold on to that. Hold on to the phone. Baruch Adonai Hambarach, Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Kirvanu Le'avodato, V'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen.
Amen. Lo ta'ashok sachir ani be'avyon me'achecha o megarech asher be'artzecha megercha asher be'artzecha bisharecha biyomo Titain Sachro v'lo tavo alav hashemesh ki ani hu ve'elav unosei et nasho v'lo yikra alecha el Adonai v'haya becha achet lo yimtu avot al banim ubanim lo yimtu al avot ish becheto yumatu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. It bears repeating that you and we all entered this room under the beautiful new-ish wood carving that says Bruchim Habaim, welcome y'all, literal translation. Blessed are those who show up. That was Hannah's spirit. And that's a spirit kept alive in Tim, and a spirit that is now doing incredible things in multiple places through Scott and Ari, and that continues to animate us. As you gird yourselves for another yahrzeit coming up at the end of this week, a blessing that, as we said those years ago and since, utzror bitzror hachayim et nishmata, that her neshama, her vital energy and soulful spirit should be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, which also translates as bound up among the bonds of the living. As you keep living, you are living testimonials to her ongoing influence. And it is a beautiful thing for your communities, for our community, and for the world. Zichrona livracha, welcome back. Beautiful to have you all up here. And we will share memories at the Oneg, as we often do. Blessings.
Kevin Fleischman, Akiva Yosef Ben Shalom, Rahama Yidit La'aria Hashemit.
And it's a twosome counting the Torah reader.
We have progressed the page. If you have the older version of the plat on page 1500, if you have the newer one, page 1332, we're continuing. Chapter 24, verse 17.
I'd like to say two things before I begin. One is Diana is very much in my heart today. We shared the same birthday and we were sisters in the same women's group. So she's been very much in my consciousness. Secondly, an apology to the congregation. It's been a busy 2-week period here, and I studied the wrong lines. I managed to find a Deuteronomy and an alternative, Deuteronomy chapter 24, 17 through 19 in an alternative universe. So with your permission, we'll do this in partnership. Kevin will point and I'll read.
Certainly, or we could, if you know where yours, the one you prepared, we
I
could
don't
do
know where
different
it is.
verses.
I've been looking.
Okay.
A bunch of numbers. I don't know where it is.
I love the image. We are all in search of Torah. So very nice. Okay.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Mavarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kivanu la'avodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Lo tatem mishpat ger yatom, v'lo tachavo beged almana, v'zacharta ki eved hayita b'Mitzrayim v'yiftecha Adonai Elohecha misham alkein. Anochi mitzavcha Anochi mitzavcha לעשות את הדבר הזה, כי תקצור קצירך בשדיך, ושכחת אומר בשדה, לא תשוב לקחתו לגר, ליתום ולאלמנה יהיה, למען יברכך אדוני אלוהיך בכל מעשה ידיך.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yeshikoch. This is an occasion, and Kevin challenged us in math. I'm going to give a little hint. You have to remember the difference between whole numbers and natural numbers. Go back to 8th grade. And next week is the 56th anniversary of his bar mitzvah. And today is his birthday, and it is a special and round and beautiful number. With celebration for the generations that have come from the amazing influence of you two, celebration for the incredible output of work among the employees and their ethics, as well as the actual advancing the work of environmental protection, for the rich Jewish connection in so many communities, and for the Menschlichkeit that continues to pour out from you. Here's wishing you another Yovel cycle, Ad Mea Ve'esrim, Yom Huledet Sameach.
And I just want to start one new custom in the synagogue on my 70th birthday. You should always kiss the Torah reader.
You're here.
We're going to take a moment for a blessing of healing. Had a Mishaberach for Kevin's birthday, and now a Mishaberach for those we're keeping in our hearts who need a blessing of healing, whether that healing is spiritual, whether that healing is in body. So if anybody has someone that they're holding in their hearts, if you want to stand in your place and just share the name or names if you care to.
And on Zoom, please use the chat so at least one another will be part of that circle of prayer. Okay.
Really?
Nina Stupel.
Please.
We sing the words Ana Elna Rafana La for a woman or Lo for a man, asking God for healing for all those named and those that we're keeping in our hearts. Refuah Shlema, a complete and full healing.
Before we announce the last one. Yes, I'm about to.
Okay.
So there's a lot of intertextuality from last week. Last week was Labor Day. Today, we read the Labor Day Torah straight out of Parsha Ki Tetzeh. Last week was Torat HaMelech, the Torah of the King. And for the first time in most of our lives, we are focused on a king in the country that was part origin for this land. Zichrona Levarcha, to the Queen. And last week, the Haftarah focused on how good are the footsteps on the mountainside of the messenger who comes bearing tidings of peace and justice and wholeness. The footsteps on the mountainside, we believe in accessibility. So as great as it would have been to create a mountain theme in here, we kept it flat. But when it's flat, it needs carpet. And that is the introduction for the third Aliyah with huge appreciation. Watch their footsteps as they come up. A footnote that as soon as this begins, anyone who wants to join me down at the Asefa with Ben Pagliaro on the first day of Limud is welcome to do so. Join your kids or grandkids or community there, or remain here. So please.
Do the carpenters, Randy Steiner and Ethel Kessler, Rivka Bat Menachem Eliezer, the Ethel Bat Leva, Rachel Leah Aliyah Hamaftir. You'll be reading the Maftir Aliyah. You have to fast forward a bit in your books to the actual Maftir for this week, which will be, if you have the older version of the book, it's 1507. If you have the newer version, it's page 1335. Chapter 25, verse 17. The other thing.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hambarach, Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Kitshanu Kirvanu Lavodato, Natan Lanu Et Torato, Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
זכור את אשר עשה לך עמלק בדרך בצאתכם ממצרים, אשר קרך בדרך ויזנבך כל הנחשלים אחריך, ואתה עייף ויגע ולא ירא אלוהים, והניח אדוני אלוהיך לך מכל אויביך מסביב בארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך נחלה לרשתה, תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים לא תשכח.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet b'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Yishar kochen. Thank you. And Yishar kochen, Ethel and Randy, I so appreciate what Rabbi Fred just said about connecting this with last week's Haftarah. I'll just add that as I was anticipating the two of you coming up for this honor to allow us to recognize you and thank you for the marvelous service you have given to this community in many different ways, but right now, especially about this way, it's just the image of Moses at the burning bush and the instruction that he receives to take off his shoes because he's standing on holy ground. We're not going to take off our shoes, but what you've done is allow us to maintain a sense of enormous pride in this beautiful space that we have and to feel that it is a warm, comfortable, and beautiful home for us. And that is an enormous contribution.
Thank you.
With great thanks to both of you. And we look forward to marching all over this carpet.
Yes, for a long time.
For a long time.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to take off your shoes and not bring dirty shoes on this. Just gonna say, but
Yeah,
Or coffee.
or coffee,
Yeah,
no coffee.
No coffee.
No coffee.
okay.
And my reference to this was like Bamidbar.
Mm.
It's like the desert, huh? Does it? And then the desert ties everything together.
Mm.
So if you notice that there's less conflicting things to look at, we're getting very technical here, so don't repeat this. But there's just a softness now about the floor that kind of matches the woods and matches the walls. Thank you.
And we're going to have something new coming up on these two pillars right here. So
But
that
we're not
you need
telling
to
you.
come to Rosh Hashanah service to see what's next.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you both.
Do we have people for?
Ah,
Has anybody been assigned to lift the Torah? Mark? Yamo, Namakia, you have somebody to go?
Paula Lewis.
Paula Lewis.
When the Torah is lifted, please rise as you are able.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, מאדוני ויד משה. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה, מאושר עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה, מאושר. Shalom, 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 shalom. Yishar koach, we can be seated. We'll continue now with the Haftarah. Would you like to listen? A little more height there. We're in the 5th of the 7 weeks of comfort, which I love to think of as the 7 weeks of increasing light, increasing joy, increasing hope and optimism. We can all use that. We're looking at chapter 54 of Isaiah. It's in your Chumash, page 1345 in the newer book, page 1612 in the older, and we'll listen for Beth's chanting after the introductory brachot.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah u'Moshe abdo u'b'nviei hamet v'tzedek. Rani akara lo yalada pitchi rina v'tzachali lo chala ki rabim b'nei shomema mipnei ve'ula amar Adonai harchivi mekom ahalech b'riot mishkanotaich yatu al tach Sochi ha'arichi metaraich v'tedotaich chazeki ki yamin u'smol tifrotzi v'zarech goyim yirash v'arim neshamot yoshivu. Al teri kilo tevoshi ve'al tikalmi kilo tachpiri ki vosha alomaich tishkachi ve'cherpa almonotaich lo tiskri od ki ve'olaich osaich Adonai tzivaot shemo V'goalech kadosh Yisrael Elohei chol haaretz yikarei ki isa azuva va'atzuvat ruach kra'ach Adonai ve'eshet ne'orim ki tima'e samar Elohaich Berega katon azavtich, uvrachamim gedolim akabtzech, beshetzef ketzef, histarti pnei ra'a mimech, uvchesed olam richamtich, amar goalech Adonai, Ki me noach zot li asher nishpati me'avor me noach od al haaretz ke nishpati miksof aleich umigarbach כי ההרים ימושו והגבעות תמותנה, וחסדי מאיתך לא ימוש, וברית שלומי לא תמות. אמר מרחמך אדוני. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת בצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך. ודבר אחד מדבריך, אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, ולעמך ישראל תושיע במהרה בימינו, ברוך אתה אדוני, משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו, והשיב לב אבות על בנים ולב בנים על אבותם, וביתך בית תפילה יקרא לכל העמים, ברוך אתה אדוני מביא שלום לעד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
יישר כוחך. Thank you so much, Beth. Before we close the Torah service and return the Sefer Torah to the Ark and close our whole service for the morning, I'd like to ask you to stick with me in the Torah for just a couple of more minutes in this parasha, Parashat Ki Tetzei, which continues the themes of social and legal civility in the new community that the children of Israel are soon going to build. The opening passage of this parasha, Ki Tetzei Lemilchama, when you go out to war, makes the startling statement, at least to us it seems startling, that even women captured in wartime, typically considered available booty with no guardrails or consequences, do in fact have some minimal rights as human beings. While the text appears horrifyingly brutal and misogynistic to our eyes today, for its time, it was remarkably progressive. And something similar happens in the references to slavery in this parasha as well. And that's what I'd like to just speak about for just a brief moment. As modern Americans, horrified by our country's odious history of kidnapping and enslaving others, we read the Torah's depiction of slavery and want to call out, why was this allowed at all? And of course, once again, we have to remind ourselves of two main things. Of course, that the Torah is describing an ancient society in which all kinds of social structures existed, which we would reject today. And number two, strange it is to say, slavery in ancient Israel was different from American colonial, from chattel slavery. Of course, we're not condoning it, but we notice in several places how the Torah text goes out of its way to erect some protections for enslaved people. Though slaves in ancient Israel had no freedom or independence, they did have some rights, which is far more than we can say for the kidnapped Africans forced into brutal chattel slavery in the United States. In ancient Israel, an enslaved person could at least count on being freed if they wanted in the 7th year of their servitude. Africans enslaved in America, of course, remained enslaved for life. In this week's parasha, we read in Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 16. And I'd like to just look at that with you for a moment. It's in the newer Plaut Chumash on page 1329. Verse 16, Lo tazgir eved el adonav, asher yinatzel elecha me'im adonav. You will not return, and we'll speak about that word for a minute. You will not return a slave to its master, to his master. Rather, you should support that person in finding the refuge that they need. And the text goes on to say, that runaway slave is allowed to live wherever they want to live. You're not allowed to return them as you would return a lost donkey or any other lost piece of property. They are not property. Even in a society which enslaved people, their humanity is acknowledged, and free citizens have some responsibility for their welfare. In fact, the Torah specifies that enslaved people had to be given their freedom, but that they could choose to remain enslaved, suggesting that the very kind of enslavement that they had at the time had its benefits, at least for those without access to their own resources. In our verses, if you were a free citizen, like any of us sitting here in this room today, you were required not to return a runaway slave, but to harbor that person in your own area and even give that person freedom of choice as to where he, probably not she, would live. There are some really interesting things we can notice about language. If you look at the beginning of verse 16, lo tasgir, Avital Hochstein of the Shalom Hartman Institute points out that this is unique language. It's different from the language earlier in this parasha that's used for returning lost property, which is lehashiv or meshiv. Here, a different verb is used as if to suggest to us, we're not talking about property, we're talking about human beings. Last Shabbat, our own members, Marilyn Kresge-Wolf and Jackie Glass, spoke from the Bima about an upcoming vote by leaders of the Reconstructionist movement on the question of supporting legislation which mandates the study of reparations for Black people and brown people in the United States. They spoke eloquently about why this question is coming up now and the role that Reconstructionist synagogue communities are being asked to play in exploring this question before the vote later this year. I so appreciated what they had to say, not because I feel like it's my role as a member of a synagogue community to engage in public policy in this way, but because I want my Torah to continue to push me to see what's possible. What I want to suggest we hear in this week's Torah is not the specifics of how we treat runaway slaves. In fact, it's tricky territory that the Torah gets into, because by suggesting that we protect runaway slaves, we're also saying that slavery is okay, which it's not. But for our time, that question is clear. In fact, if we come into contact with someone who is being unjustly pursued or enslaved or seeking refuge, we need to help that person. We hardly need Parashat Ki Teitzei to tell us that, but I'm glad we have it just the same. What is important to take away from this passage about enslaved people seeking their freedom is the aspirational potential the Torah text transmits here to us. While the concrete words of Torah are fixed for all time, the ideas that animate those words are indeed alive and vital. We receive those ideas from out of their distant history through the prism of generations of teachers and scholars who now hand them to us with the same mandate they took upon themselves: to seek out the radical humanity inherent in these ideas and to participate in their evolution by utilizing them to help us reach beyond our own human limitations. Ask us now to say the prayer for our country. We can turn back in the Siddur to page 418 and let those words of Torah continue to ring in our ears to help us build the community that we believe it's possible to build. Page 418, it's custom to rise for all who are able. Let's say together, Sovereign of the universe, mercifully receive our prayer for our land and its government. Let your blessing pour out on this land and on all officials of this country who are occupied in good faith with the public needs. Instruct them from your Torah's laws. Enable them to understand your principles of justice so that peace and tranquility, happiness and freedom might never turn away from our land. Please, wise one, God of the life breath of all flesh, waken your spirit within all inhabitants of our land and plant among the peoples of different nationalities and faiths who dwell here love, peace, and friendship. Uproot from their hearts all hatred and enmity, all jealousy and vying for supremacy. Fulfill the yearning of all the people of our country to speak proudly in its honor. Fulfill their desire to see it become a light to all nations. Therefore, may it be your will that our land should be a blessing to all inhabitants of the globe, cause to dwell among all peoples, friendship and freedom, and soon fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. Let them learn no longer ways of war. And amen. And if you just turn the page, join me to say the last lines of the prayer for the state of Israel, also in search of its own potential. Ha'atzel meruchacha al kol yoshvei eretz kodshenu. Haser mikirbam sin'a ve'eva kin'a ve'rishut. V'ta belibam ahava ve'achva shalom ve'reut. V'kayem bimhera chazon neviecha. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev. V'lo yilmedu od milchama v'nomar. Amen. We'll turn to returning the Sefer Torah to its home, to its resting place, inviting forward Cheryl Hurwitz. And I don't know if someone's been given the honor of returning the Torah. Ted Berman, thank you. Page 433 in our Siddur.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הודו על ארץ ושמיים, וירם כהרן לעמו. תהילה לכל חסידה, לבני ישראל עם קרובו. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Page 441. ונוחו יאמר שוב אדוני רבבות אלפי ישראל, כי לכך טוב נתתי לכם, תורתי אל תעזור. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, ותומכיה מיושר דרך דרכנו בכל נתיבותיה השלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, קדש ימינו כקדם. השיבנו אליך ונשובה, קדש ימינו כקדם. השיבנו אליך ונשובה, קדש ימינו כקדם. יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה לה יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה לה לה.
445.
עלינו לשבח לדור הכל, לתת גדולה יוצר בראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נותן שמיים ועושה הארץ, ומשה יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו איך פסולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו. ידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, והארץ מתחת. אין עוד, אין עוד.
להפנות אליך כל אנשי הארץ, יכירו וידעו כל יושבי צידם, כי אחת תפרח וברך תשבח כל השם.
ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Hopefully our community has seen the announcements that have gone out, but just in case, to share with us all that we are extending our loving condolence to Deborah Fried-Levin on the death of her father, Al Fried, just this past week. There will be Shiva this coming Monday evening at Deborah and Josh's home. I believe there's also a way to listen just by audio if you'd like to tune in. And also to send our very heartfelt and loving condolence to Cindy Schofer and the entire extended Schofer family on the loss of Cindy's father, John Trella. And there will be Shiva for that family, for the Schofer family, in memory of this beloved father and grandfather and husband on Tuesday evening. So messages have gone out and reminders will go out, but just to please be aware of those in our midst who are just in those first days of mourning, and to send them our love. I'll also acknowledge Amy Dick, who is still in those first weeks of remembering her father, Lionel Finkelstein. And as Rabbi Fred mentioned, somehow uncannily, even here in pastoral Bethesda, we feel the loss of Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth II, who I think most of us in this room, many of us have known her as a fixture our whole lives, even from across the ocean. We, of course, wish good things to come from her legacy and for that monarchy to continue to allow itself to evolve as it seemingly did under her long reign. I want to acknowledge those observing Yortzeit this week. Howard Milchberg's mother, Renee Milchberg, Steve Brody's mother, Eleanor Brody, Jeff Chyatt's father, Eli Chyatt, Carol Rose's mother, Sarah Pollock, Gail Dratch's mother, Claire Dratch, Marshall Mazur's father, Lawrence Mazur, Claire Williams' father, Edward Williams, Hal Siegel's mother, Helen Siegel, Deborah Stone's mother, Arlene Stone, Harriet Sugarman's uncle, Bernard Manikin, Wendy Swire's father, Samuel Sherwin, Melissa Goman's father, Henry Koritz, Aaron Klappau's mother, and Mark's grandmother, and all of Mark's children's great-grandmother, Anita Klappau, Arthur Silver's mother, Dorothy Silver, and of course, as we said already, and we'll continue to say, Tim Lippman's wife, Ari and Scott's mom, and our beloved friend and leader, Hannah Lippman. All those who are in mourning or observing a yahrzeit, please stand. The Kaddish is on page 451. I'll ask those standing to please say together, Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah. Ve'alma dibrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru ameh. Yehe Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha. Their memories for a blessing, for comfort, for inspiration, and for love. It's a custom at this season to say the 27th Psalm. It's a custom to say the 27th Psalm after the other prayers of the day have been completed. So ask us to join together on page 832. Beth and I would like to share with you and hopefully sing with you just this one verse from Psalm 27, which supports us once again to cultivate a relationship with that central chord of life, which we sometimes call God. Achat sha'alti met Adonai, achat sha'alti ota avakesh. Join us. Achat sha'alti met Adonai, achat sha'alti ota avakesh. Shivti, shivti, bevet Adonai. Shivti, shivti, kol yemei hayai. Shivti, shivti, bevet Adonai. Shivti, shivti, kol yemei hayai. Lachazot benoam Adonai, ulvaker behechalon. Lachazot benoam Adonai, to gaze upon the beauty
Mevet Adonai, Shivti, Ota Yemet Hayash, Shivti, Mevet Adonai, Shivti, Ota Yemet Hayash.
Oh, that was bound to happen. Okay. Well, I want to say with delight that Miss Ellie has arrived and the next generation, and you're right on time. So will you all please come on down? And Shabbat Shalom, welcome, welcome. I don't know, I believe that either our president or one of our board leaders is here to make some greetings, but I don't know who it is. Great, okay. So Carol, come forward. Yes, yeah.
Shabbat Shalom and welcome back. This is not homecoming, but it almost feels like homecoming to have so many people here and to have our kids and Miss Ellie and so much going on. A special welcome to all the families because this is the first day of Limud, our program, and Miss Ellie is here and our helpers for our brachas, and so that's wonderful. High holidays are almost here. There's so much information. Please check the website and you'll have all the details there. Next Saturday is Slichot, and when you, as you head outside, you'll see flyers that look like this because there are kids programs and pizza dinner for families, time to schmooze. Noah Baum, our own Noah Baum, has an original story to share with us. There's a musical Havdalah with Rabbi Hazan Rachel and Hazan Ramon Tassat. And this afternoon, we have our program fair, and you'll have opportunities to find out all things Adat Shalom that you can get involved in. So please make sure. And what you're smelling, if you're here in the sanctuary, is our first oneg. We are back. And so I look forward to breaking bread and having a chance to speak. So Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Carol. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a special kiddush to say today. Cheryl Hurwitz is going to lead us, and we'd love it if we could have you come close as much as you like. We're on page 465 in the Siddur, and it's again a custom for us to stand together as we're able. Yeah.
V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam merit olam b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-Shemayim et ha'aretz Yom Hashvi Shabbat B'Yom Havash V'shameru Yisrael Et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Ledorotam merit olam b'nei ובני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ביום נפש על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו. סברי חבריי, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן.
Amen. Okay, team, let's get in here.
Oh, boy. Round two.
Ready? Around two.
That is a holla.
You ready?
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המוציא לחם מן הארץ ותיארון.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Matei avon, everyone. Thank you so much.
She's touching the color?
No, no, no.
Great job.
Thank you for coming up and helping to lead them.
He's gonna be so used to the beamer by the time it's his moment. Yeah.
How you doing, honey?
The people on the,
Is it donuts and flowers? Lunch?
All right. My guy is leaving, so we're gonna go.
Did you? No.
Sorry, it's okay. Then I started listening to like the sequel to Achilles is like Johnson. Did you read Achilles first?
Okay. Oh, now you want to come back.